Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. So I've been to the Overwatch University subreddit ahead of time and just scraped all the questions off the first couple pages, and we're going to answer them now while some footage of Dragon Ball FighterZ plays in the background, because it is a better game than Overwatch. And please do pretend whichever side won was me. Thank you, thank you. By next week, I might have actually been able to play the game again. Wouldn't that be incredible? So, first up is it possible to carry and win all of your games? Flatly, no, it's not possible. Unless you are literally God himself, Jeff Kaplan. It can't be done. If you are, like... You'll watch, like, a pro player go, like, bronze to GM, and they'll lose, like, 5 games over that whole process, you know. That's very close to all of your games. You are not a pro player. You will not carry all of your games. It is simply not possible for mere mortals to do. This is, like, the thing with, like, being able to watch pro players and like high level players so freely now, is that people get a really like fucked up perspective of how their experience in the game is going to be, because they see these players playing and they do really well, and then they're like, this must just be the normal experience, where if you're good, like me obviously, you play, you do well, you win all of your games. And not so. Tragically, most people are going to climb with a very close to 50% win ratio. Most people are going to climb with like a 50, but somewhere between like 51 and 53% win ratio is going to be like how most people climb, which is losing a little under half of your games. Such is life. It's not feasible to win all of your games, no. Particularly in a team-based game where, like, it only takes one thing just going slightly wrong, and that can be the difference between you and winning and losing, or something going really well for the other team. And, you know, across 6 people, that's just gonna happen sometimes. There's the rule that gets broken down a little bit differently, depending, like, some people go 20, 40, 40, 20, 40. And some people go 33, 33, 33. But the gist is, you're going to win... I go with 40, 20, 40, but the gist is, you're going to win 40% of your games through no fault of your own. Because somebody on your team is going to carry you, someone on the bad man's team is going to do extremely poorly, they're going to feed, they're going to disconnect, what have you. And you're going to lose 40% of your games through no input of your own for the exact opposite reason of you've got the DC, the troll, someone on their team plays really well, blah blah blah. And then the remaining 20% are the games that you personally have the potential to affect the outcome of. And you're not going to win all of those games either, unfortunately. But the idea is, you know, if you play consistently well, you have control over this 20%. You know, if you play consistently well, you're going to climb, given enough time. And that's how most people's experience is going to be. So no, it is not possible to carry and win all of your games unless you are literally a god, which you probably aren't. Don't, like, watch the pros and be like, oh yeah, that's gonna be me. That's probably not gonna be you. This applies also to, like, how the game will operate as well, because people also have this tendency of, like, watching other people play and thinking that they can do the same thing, or they'll experience the same thing. I made this comment a while ago. I forget the exact thing from the video, but I was basically like, Bridget is bad against snipers. And someone commented and was like, I've watched 2 top 500 players play Bridget and they can contest snipers, and then it went on for a little while after that. And are you this one of these 2 top 500 players? You probably aren't. You're not going to be able to contest a sniper on Bridget. I'm sorry to tell you this. You lack the skill to contest a sniper on Bridget. I lack the skill to contest a sniper on Bridget, and I played a fucking lot of Bridget, okay? Like, good for those 2 top 500 people that you use as an example, but, you know, outliers are not meant to be counted in the overall statistics. Sorry, Bridget's not good against snipers for 99% of the player base. Such is life. Anyway, so next up is, what can I do against a good Widow as support? I look in the thread for all of these things, and like one of the top comments, the guy literally said, "Learn Lucio, the support's Genji." And boy, isn't that just the most accurate description of how a lot of people who play Lucio treat Lucio. Boy, please don't go and play Reddit Lucio. It's not good. You're gonna fuck it up. You're not stanky. Anyway, so I mean, like, the best you can do is, like, call out the Widow and then just, like, don't die the Widow, basically. Like, avoid going into her line of sight as much as possible. Track where Widow is really carefully and just avoid exposing yourself to her. Because, like, you as a supporter are a very high priority pick for her, so try to make that as hard for her to get as possible. You can do things to, like, support people that can contest the Widow. Like, if you have your own Widow, you know, if you're playing, like, Mercy, you can res your Widow, she gets to try again. You can damage boost your Widow, it makes it a little easier for her to maybe kill their Widow. If you're playing Baptiste, you can use the Immortality Field to try and cover the person as well, you know. But, like, outside of that, there's not a lot you can do. Like, some people are like, pick Zenyatta. Zenyatta against a good Widow player is going to eat shit every single time. It's the nature of things. It's not going to work. You know, you can try and kill the person as Lucio. I wouldn't really recommend that. On certain maps, it wouldn't be as hard to do. But I'm mostly thinking of Junkertown when I say that, to be honest with you. But, like, it's hard. Supports can't really do anything to Widow for the most part, you know? Like, the best you can do is, like, call out where she is, avoid getting picked, and try and support people who can actually kill the Widowmaker. You have limited options. Supports are not really meant to be able to counter Widow. Also, please don't try and fight Widow as Anna. Again, like, the good Widow will wreck you every single time. She has to click you once. You have to click her 3 times. Hitbox-wise, like, it's way easier to hit Anna than it is to hit Widow. Anyway. So, there's not a lot you can do. Supports aren't meant to counter Widow. That's, like, the best you can do, really. Next up is, how do you get good? And this was just, like, a guy who was like, I've watched all the videos, I practice, and I just don't seem to feel any improvement, blah, blah, blah. Review, it's like, I do everything, and it just doesn't seem to be getting any better. And so, I always think that the main issue people have with trying to improve is just that they always worry about too many things at once, right? Like, they watch all these videos, they try and intake as much information as they can. Also, here's the thing, right? Watching videos has limited ability to help you, right? Like, it does help, obviously, but, like, the most that, like, a guide or a VoD review or anything like that, or, like, a tips, tricks thing, anything like that, the most that those videos can do is accelerate your improvement slightly. They are not going to be some kind of, like, skip to the end, I've watched all the videos, I've intaken all the information, I'm good now. There's a great difference between knowing what you should do and then actually being able to do it in the situation, or being able to identify what you should be doing in this specific situation. Right, like, you need to actually, like, practice all of these things. So, like, the videos and everything, they can only help you so much. You know, don't watch all the videos thinking that they're gonna, like, jump you ahead dramatically. They will accelerate your improvement, but that's it. They're not gonna, like, make you good by themselves. Like, I know a lot about fighters in theory, but I'm still really bad about it. I could talk to you about the theory for fucking hours, but I'm still bad. Such is life. But, like, I think the main problem that holds people back in actually improving is just they're worrying about too many things at once. Like, this is... Because every time this kind of question comes up, like, it's always somebody going, like, I watched everything, I do everything, I watched my videos, I watched the pros, I watched this, that, and the other, I've taken notes, you know, I'm trying to work on my game sense, my mechanics, my swapping, like, everything, list fucking everything. And, like, the guys in, like, silver, you don't need to worry about this much shit, dog. Like, here's what you do. You worry about, like, you try and identify where you have issues, right? So, you know, you're generally gonna have issues in a few different places. So, you know, you got, like, mechanically, I'm not great, you know, my game sense is, okay, my positioning is pretty bad, I'm bad at tracking ults, you know, you identify the things you're bad at, and then you work at them one at a time. You don't try and think about all of them at the same time. You pick the one thing that you think is most important at the time. So, like, positioning is pretty important, you know, that's usually going to be a pretty high priority. So you literally just worry about your positioning until you're better at it. Like, you literally just spend your time focusing on your positioning. I'm going to get good at positioning. And then once you've gotten good at that, you don't need to dedicate this mental bandwidth to it anymore, right? Like, you've now gotten good at positioning. It is now muscle memory. You don't have to commit much thought to it. You'll still have to think about it, but you don't have to think about it as much, right? Now that I've solved that problem, I move on to next problem. I go, like, I'm bad at tracking ults, and, like, my mechanics are not great. Mechanics you just improve by like playing the game, so you don't really actively worry about mechanics. That's just an experience thing. So you, like, push that one to the side and you go, alright, ult tracking and, like, my game sense could use work. So you, like, hard focus on that. You're like, alright, I'm gonna come into these next, like, 10 games, whatever, and I'm literally just gonna, like, focus on tracking their ults, right? I'm just gonna focus on that. Alright, he just used his ultimate. I'm gonna watch him during the next couple of fights. And I'm gonna be like, alright, he's got his ultimate, and then bam, I'm gonna be ready for him. I'm gonna counter his ultimate. And you do that enough times, you get good at that, you don't have to worry about it as much anymore. It's become muscle memory. Now you move on to the next thing. And you just repeat that process for every issue that you have. And then, you know, eventually you get to the point where you don't have any, like, big, grand issues to worry about anymore, right? You've shaved off, usually when you start getting to, like, platinum or diamond. By this point, main issues have been dealt with, and at this point it becomes more like refinement. So you're not, at this point, this is the point where, like, watching your games, or, like, videos can help you more, because at this point, you're worrying about optimization more than you are, like, big things. Positioning's, like, you know, I don't have to worry about that, I'm pretty good at that, all this and that and the other. So now you're just, like, trying to get, like, the extra little bit of optimization out of your heroes. So that's when watching the videos becomes more important, because then you can watch your gameplay back, and then you can at this point, you're not really looking for mistakes you made as much as you are opportunities that you missed at the time. Because once you're, like, shaved all the main issues off and it's more refinement, it's finding opportunities that you previously missed more than solving mistakes. Like, you'll still make mistakes. You're never gonna play a fucking perfect game no matter how good you are, but now it's more opportunities than mistakes. And then, you know, this is where it gets harder once you kind of, like, plateau like this. It gets harder to, like, break through that, because now when it's more like optimization stuff, it's stuff that doesn't frequently matter, but you have to be ready to, like, you have to be ready to capitalize on it when it does matter, right? So, like, it's more nitpicky stuff. It always seems really nitpicky to say something like, when you're watching, like, a Reinhardt video, it always seems really nitpicky when the person is like, you could have had your shield down for this, like, 1.5 period, right? Because that 1.5 period is, like 100 health regen, maybe. Like, I had saved, like, 50 extra health on my shield or something like that, right? And it seems really nitpicky, but that point, once you're in, like, diamond, like, that's the kind of thing that does matter, because sometimes it does matter. It doesn't always matter, but sometimes it does matter, and you need to actually, like, take advantage of that in the situations it does matter, because no longer are you capitalizing on massive mistakes, and you're not making massive mistakes, so you have to take advantage of more of these edge case scenarios to actually, like, climb at that point. So anyway, this got like really rambling and incoherent, but anyway, how you get good, you focus on like one thing or two things maybe at a time. And you just really hard focus on them until you feel like you've reached a decent level in that area. And then you move on to the next thing, repeat until you're top 500. Problem solved. So, next up is, what is the problem with Soldier 76? I mean, so there were 3 problems, but one of them is like not that much of an issue anymore. One of the problems was shields. But shields is less of an issue now after they got, like, so bigly nerfed. Shields is less of an issue. Soldier still doesn't really like shields that much, but he's also, like, decent at breaking them, so it's not, like, the end of the world. Like, it used to be a bigger issue, it's not that much of an issue anymore. So his other 2 issues are, first off, he doesn't have a lot of burst damage outside of Helix Rocket. This makes it very difficult for him to actually get kills. Because, like, someone like McCree, you can just burst someone to death off of 1 or 2 shots. Well, 2 or 3 shots. You're lucky if you get 1 shot off McCree, right? Same deal with, like, Widow, Ash, you know. Soldier, however, if he doesn't have Helix Rocket, it's difficult for him to get a kill because he lacks burst damage, right? So the person needs to have given you a bigger opening compared to the opening they would have needed to give, like, a McCree or an Ash, right? Like, they need a less of an opening. Or you need to be in a better situation, where, like, you need to have Helix Rocket and be in a position where you can actually use it, you have to hit it, it's a projectile, it's kind of slow, you know. So, like, not having burst damage is an issue, and, like, the main issue with Soldier is, like, it's just, like, why are you picking him over anybody else, right? Like, he's a well-rounded character, but he doesn't have anything that's, like, unfair about him, right? This was, like, something that, like, somebody said about a card game once, but I think you can apply it to everything, really, is that, you know, they said a card is only really good, a card is only as good as it is unfair. Like, there has to be something unfair about it for it to be good, right? I think the same is true of most games. There needs to be something unfair about a character for them to be good, right? And you think about, like, Widowmaker. What's unfair about Widowmaker? She can one-shot you from really fucking far away. That's pretty unfair. Hanzo can do the same thing. That's pretty unfair, right? He's got wall hacks, like, pretty easy access to him. That's unfair. Reinhardt's got a 1600 health barrier that he can freely move that blocks damage going through to his team, but his team can shoot through it. That's pretty unfair, right? Like, there has to be something unfair to make them, like, a good character. McCree's got a stun. He can kill you in a couple of shots. He can stun, fan the hammer, you basically died. He can do this to a tank, right? Like, he can roll fan, he killed a tank, basically, right? There's something unfair about all of these characters. There's nothing really unfair about Soldier 76. He's well-rounded, but he's not exceptional in any one area, right? And this is, like, I don't really have an issue with Soldier, because I think, like, he's fine. Like, he's not as good as the other characters, but, like, I'm not of the opinion that every character needs to be exactly equal to all other characters. I think the dream of perfect balance, like every character is equally viable, is a pipe dream that's not feasible and, like, is not good either. Like, to me, one of the things that's good about Soldier is that he's pretty easy to play, right? Like, he's not unfair in any way. He's not, like, a top-tier character, but he's really easy to play. And that makes him, like, a good starter hero for people, right? I am of the opinion that there should be heroes in the game that are easy to play, but the heroes that are easy to play should not be top-tier heroes. They should be middle-tier at best, because if a character is really strong and really easy, that's just called being overpowered, right? Like, you don't want that. So I think there should be easy characters because there needs to be a point of access for new players, right? And you can't have the easy characters be strong. So some characters, as far as I'm concerned, naturally need to be lower on the tier list to fill that category, right? And Soldier fills that for me, right? Like, he's easy to play, he's not top tier. Mercy, similarly, she's easy to play, she's not top tier, right? Reinhardt is easy to play. He's not top tier. Right? I think all of this is fine. And that's not to say you can't do well on these characters at a high level. You can. If you look at, like, Soldier's, like, Masters, Grandmasters win ratio, it's pretty high. But he also has an exceptionally small player base at those levels as well, because those are the people that really like Soldier 76. So they've dedicated a lot of time to getting really good at Soldier 76. So they're good at Soldier 76 and they do well on a high level. You can do that with any hero. This guy is playing 3 of the worst heroes in the game right now. This guy is playing Blue Vegeta, Nappa, and Krillin. These are all D or C tier characters. And he has, like, one of the highest point totals I've ever seen. He is good at the game. He's playing 3 of the lowest tier heroes. And Boo, for the record, is one of the highest tier heroes overall. Like, the other guy's team is dramatically better tiered. He's got more points than him. Right? Like, it doesn't matter if a character is bad as far as, like, tier lists go. If you're good at the character, you'll overcome that because you're good at the character. There's an example in Tekken where there is this guy who regularly makes top 8 of FGC events, right? Top 8 is like the standard for fighting game events, top 8. He makes top 8 very regularly, playing the Bear character in Tekken. I don't know what the Bear's name is, I'm sorry. But he plays the Bear, and the Bear is, like, generally agreed to be, if not the worst character, definitely one of the worst characters. And he makes, at multiple of Tekken events, he makes it to, like, top 8. He's won multiples of them. What a legend. That was an incredibly hard read. Good job, Vegeta. Like, it doesn't matter. There's this old-ish anyway, Melee, Smash Melee clip of a guy playing Pikachu against Fox, and Fox, Final Destination, Fox only no items, right? Like, top tier character. Pikachu, not so much. The guy fucking rinses the Fox player, dude. Like, it's not even remotely close. He wins the entire match in, like, less than a minute. Because he's really good at fucking Pikachu, right? And things have to go well for you in that situation as well, right? Like, obviously he's not gonna rinse every top player as Pikachu in less than a minute, right? But, like, fucking he's playing, like, in a very high level event, drastic tier difference, rinses the guy. Is not even a remotely close match. Like, doesn't matter. If you're good at the character, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't even matter that, like, Soldier isn't as good as McCree. If you want to get good at Soldier, you can get good at Soldier, and you can see good results on Soldier. You just have to be willing to put the work in. Anyway, so those are the problems with Soldier, and then that got, like, expanded out into this big thing about balance. The gist is, not everybody should be high tier. There needs to be bad characters that are easy to play, or at least, like, easy to play characters that are not as good as the other characters, okay? Alright? People need a point to get in. So you need easy characters, but the easy characters, they can't be strong. They can't be. That's not okay. Alright, so moving on. Now, why do pros and high elo players talk with an upward inflection? Which I ain't. So there's, like, actually a term for this. It's called, if you want to use the technical term, it's the high rising terminal, or more commonly it's called uptalk, which is you just end every sentence as if it ends with a question mark. Everything sounds like it's a question, even though it isn't really, or, you know, like the Valley Girl accent kind of thing, right? Like, it's not really like, it's just an observed thing with people that they do this. It's generally younger people that do this, and, like, that's kind of it. Like, it has, like, the high-rising terminal has this kind of, like, reputation as, like, it's, like, the Valley Girl thing, or that it's, like, more common in women. Not true. It's just, like, a thing that, like, generally young people do, but it's, like, a thing in general. It's kind of, like... It's one of those things where, like, you know, when you feel like an impulsive... Or at least this is what... I'm not a psychologist, but this is what I think. You know how you feel that, like, that intrinsic, like, need to say, like... In my opinion, right, like, as a kind of, like, defense, like, oh, if it turns out I'm wrong, right, like, it's just my opinion, okay, you know, and you try not to do that if you're, like, writing an essay or something, because it makes you seem really unsure about your point, right, it's, like, the same kind of thing, where, like, especially with, like, shot calling, which is mostly what this was in reference to, like, if it sounds like you were asking a question... it doesn't seem as bad if you get it wrong, right? Like, you were, I was never sure about it to begin with, dude, so, like, don't get mad at me, right? Like, that's how I kind of interpret, like, that sort of behavior. Even though that's how I interpret it, right? Like, that's kind of like saying, in my opinion. It's what I think. I think that's why people do it, is that... And then I always do also give this advice where, like, if you're trying to communicate with people, it is better to frame it as a suggestion or a question, because then people don't feel like they're being ordered around, which makes them more receptive to it, right? Like, I don't say... I tell you not to say something like, go Winston to counter Widow, right? Instead, it's better to say something like, hey, Tank, can you play Winston? So that we can try and counter the... Yeah, you phrase it as a question, then it's more like a suggestion to the person, rather than going, Orisa, change to Winston to counter the Widow, right? Yeah, can you play Winston? It makes it feel like they're agreeing to it, rather than you're ordering them, so it makes people more receptive. So I think there's kind of a bit of that with it, as well as, like, for the most part, like, high elo players and streamers, like, they're socially awkward, like, teenagers or people in their early 20s, right? They're not as confident as other people are. So this is why they do things like that. This is why the high-rising terminal is something that is more commonly observed in younger people, because they're less confident about things, and therefore more common to making these kinds of, like, verbal tics or what have you that, like, make them seem less confident, because they're not as, like, experienced yet. This is also why this is a big segue. This is why I always love those videos that are like, Ben Shapiro annihilates social justice warrior, where it's like, Ben Shapiro is, like, the master of making, like, college students seem stupid, because, like, oh, it's like an 18-year-old guy in his first year of college debating with this, like, guy who has worked in media most of his life and has a ton of training in that, right? Ben Shapiro seems like 20,000 times more confident than this college student, so it seems like Ben Shapiro got him, even though in reality, Ben Shapiro usually said something really fucking stupid, but it just kind of slipped by because the college guy seemed stupider, right? Yeah. One of my favorite examples of this was, it was about global warming, because obviously global warming's fake, right? The ice caps, it's just a thing. There's, like, don't worry about it, dude, right? It's like, so Ben Shapiro's like, so assuming climate change is real, and the water level rises, and all the low-lying areas flood and people are displaced, that's not a big deal because, well, people will just don't you think people will just sell their houses and move? Now, so he delivers that really confidently. So your instinct is like, oh yeah, he's right, of course, you just sell your house. But then you stop and think about it for a second, and you're like, who are they gonna sell the fucking house to, Ben? Aquaman? Right? Like, but did 19-year-olds, like, philosophy student here figure that one out? No. No, he didn't. He just got quiet, right? Like, anyway, that segue, I love, like, those videos. Like, 9 times out of 10, he said something stupid as well. The other person is just not confident enough to call him on it. Anyway, so it's an observed, pros and high elo players do it. It's an observed phenomenon in younger people. It's no like big thing. Anyway, so now moving on. How come some heroes are permanently low tier? Now, I'll be honest with you. This is one of those ones that I included because I kind of just wanted to make fun of the guy that posted it. Because, what an exact quote taken from it is, why can't Soldier be a tier 1 DPS? Coming back to Soldier again, right? Oh, fatal error. Well, that's bad, isn't it? It was still going in the background. I wonder if I had just left it, if it would have actually just kept playing. I could have, like, put the window, whatever. Anyway, so I'm starting that back up while we talk about this. So, what the vibe that the thread gave me was that, and I mean, the guy says he stops and starts repeatedly because he basically just wants to be a Soldier one trick, and Soldier is, like, not good, so he keeps coming back, finding out Soldier is still bad, and then quitting a little while after that. Like, you know, you have to actually, like, play, you know, going back to it, Soldier will be fine. I mean, there's observed high elo players playing Soldier and doing fine, right? You can do it. The thing is, you have to actually practice at it. So this was just, like, one of those threads where the person's like, why is my character bad? It's Blizzard's fault, right? He does actually blame Blizzard for not buffing heroes adequately, basically, or buffing disproportionately, and not in his favor, essentially. But yeah, so there is kind of a thing here. How come some heroes are permanently low tier? I mean, it does feel that way with certain people, right? Like, people still have the conception that Torbjorn is, like, unplayable throw pick, right? People think Soldier is an unplayable throw pick. And this is a thing with, like, all video games, where once a community has attached something, has attached a stigma to a character, it is really fucking hard to get that stigma off of the character. Like, Orisa, when she came out, got that stigma attached to her of being absolutely awful. And she eventually got over that. But it took, like, a really long time. Like, it took... Let's do Ginyu. Fuck it. It took people a really long time to actually admit that Orisa wasn't awful, right? And then eventually we realized Orisa was really good, right? But it took a while to get there because she had this stigma attached to her, and she ended up getting buffed a bunch of times, and, like, as we've seen now, she definitely didn't need those buffs, did she? But she got them, so she ended up, because she had this stigma attached to her, you know, she ended up getting a bunch of buffs that she didn't really need. And, you know, this is, it happens. Like, Torbjorn still has the stigma attached to him, even though he's fine now. Like, there's, yeah, you know, Torbjorn is still not a top-tier hero, you know, nobody's gonna put him on the S+ category on a tier list, right? But, like, he's fine, dog. You can play Torbjorn. If you really like Torbjorn, fucking go for it, dude. Like, he's fine. He's not unplayable. Sombra has sort of gotten over this stigma, but she had that for a while. Mei had the stigma attached to her, but, like, people also hated Mei at the same time. Very interesting. She had, like, a double stigma attached to her of being, like, people were like, Mei's a throw pick, and then also being, I hate playing against Mei. It was very interesting how both of those things happened at, like, the same time. Symmetra eventually got over this, but it also, like, that took, like, a lot of pro players playing Symmetra, basically. And there's like, the trickle-down effect, right? Like, once a high elo player will figure something out, and then that'll trickle all the way down. There's an example of this in Fighters as well. Base form Goku, at the start of the Season 2, which is just now concluding for the record, is Goku, base form Goku was rated by most people to be like a D or a C tier hero, right? And now at the end of Season 2, like, basically one guy played a lot of base form Goku and showed us, like, oh shit, this guy's got, like, a lot of fucking tech, dude. So suddenly, right, like, base form Goku had this stigma attached to him. This is a 1v1 game, so obviously people didn't really care as much as they would in a team game, but base form Goku had this attached to him, and now from the start of the season to the end, so over the span of a year, he has now jumped from most people's estimate to be C or D to being like A or like high B, right? Like high B, A tier, somewhere in that region. Like he jumped from one end to the other, and like this is usually how it goes, where like somebody is usually fine, they get a stigma attached to them, and then it takes a really long time to shake that stigma off, and more often than not, it requires a very high-level player playing them a lot and being like, no, look, see, look, here's what you do, and suddenly the hero's good. And then they go, oh shit, this hero was always good. I fucking knew it. And then that's when I knew it, obviously. Everybody else didn't know, but I knew. I was with the guy. I understood. I didn't say anything about it, obviously, but yeah. Anyway, like, you know, it's hard to get these stigmas. So there are, like, some people that get permanently low-tiered when they're actually fine. It's just, it's hard to shake this stigma off of them. Torbjorn still hasn't shaken it off, and, like, he probably won't for a while, even though he's fine. He's not incredible, but he's fine. Anyway, I mostly just wanted to laugh at that guy, so let's move on. Next up is, and we've actually gone, like, pretty long, so this will be the last one. I did have a couple more, but Jesus Christ, I'm gonna save them for next week instead. Is it me, or is Overwatch dying every other week? Yeah, it does feel like that, doesn't it? Part of the problem for this is YouTubers, right? Like, I saw, like, a couple of videos already that were, like, because Blizzard, Jeff made that post where they're, like, thinking of doing, like, a 1-3-2 comp, instead of 2-2-2 to alleviate queue times. And after that, I saw, like, 3 people upload a video that was like, Blizzard, save Overwatch by implementing, like, right, like, YouTubers are very prone to doing this, like, clickbaity stuff. Blizzard is dying, or Overwatch, Blizzard's dying, you know, same difference. Overwatch is dying, here's what they could do to save it, right, like, and they get people in to click on their videos like that, so this feeds into it, but I mean, I feel like, since probably like a year after Overwatch came out, people have been saying Overwatch has been dying since then. So, you know, multiple years at this point, basically. So if Overwatch is dying, Jesus Christ, dude, it's taken a long fucking time to die, isn't it? What an extended death rattle. Jesus Christ, multiple years in length. The fact is, the people who are saying that the game is dying are usually, not always, but usually in the vocal minority. So you see a lot of people yelling about how Overwatch is dying, which doesn't line up with that at all. There was this thing a while ago that was like, the Overwatch League must be failing because they're putting it on, like, Kotaku pages as, like, auto-playing videos. And, like, so obviously Overwatch League is failing, and then, like, somebody who actually works there was like, no, you fucking dumbasses. They didn't put it, like, this bluntly, like, no, you fucking dumbasses. The auto-playing videos are set muted by default, and so therefore are not actually counted as engagement until they are unmuted. So, no, you're wrong. The engagement numbers aren't fake because of, like, Kotaku articles. Which is an interesting, like, I don't think, like, 100,000 people are going to, like, a random Kotaku article, but, you know, maybe. I fucking hope not, but maybe. Anyway, so, yeah, you know, Overwatch does seem like it's dying pretty frequently, doesn't it? I think it's mostly just YouTubers' fault, but also, like, the vocal minority has this effect of making things seem worse, don't they? So, yeah, it is dying every week. It's been dying every week since about 2 years ago now. So, Jesus Christ. Can it just fucking get on with it? You know? It's like the kind of, you know, the way they act is like, I'm a hypochondriac, so I'm like, you know, I feel this lump, and I'm like, oh god, it's gonna get me. It doesn't get me. It's not cancer. And then I feel that lump again, like, 9 years later, and I'm like, oh god. That cancer's just sitting there, growing, still. It's just like, I genuinely have a lump that is completely fine, but every now and then I'm like, oh god, that cancer's gonna get me sooner or later. I've had this lump for like 12 fucking years at this point. If the cancer was going to kill me, holy shit, it's doing a fucking awful job of it, isn't it? God damn. Saying, you know, if Overwatch is dying, Jesus Christ, can it just fucking get it over with? God damn. You're just being dramatic at this point, aren't you? So anyway, we've gone over time, the usual time, so we'll stop there now, and we'll just wait for this game to end. It looks like Ginyu's not gonna hold it together for us. He might still, it's possible. You know, he's got a little bit of a waste out. No, that's really bad. It's gonna be just Broly at this point. Alright, Broly versus 3 characters. By the way, 10 is back. He's playing a very high tier team. It's like all S tier characters. Good for him. It's not actually S tier. It's like Kid Buu is like probably on there. The other two are like A, but he's playing a very high tier team. So good for him. You know, winning the game. Oh, they got the dramatic finish. Wow. Amazing. This is not one of the better dramatic finishes, but he got it. One punch. Fucking got him. You don't see the dramatic finishes very often. They take very specific circumstances. Good for him. Managed to get it. I wonder if he skipped it in the game, because we wouldn't know. You skip the dramatic finishes. We wouldn't know. The replay always shows the ending, regardless if it was skipped in the video. So I wonder if the Broly just mashed through it. This is usually the case, where you get the dramatic finish, and then they immediately skip it. Anyway, so, and we saw the start of this one. As we can see, Dragon Ball Super Broly has called in Dragon Ball Z Broly, and now they're both going to tag team Kid Buu. There's doubtlessly a hentai about this somewhere, so we will assume that Kenshirindo won this game, because 2-on-1, it's not even really fair, is it? Come on. So, thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you could join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just ship posts with us. I start streaming on Twitch Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 PM EST till 11 EST. There's a link to the channel in the description. And if you managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.